The Bosnian Uprising was a revolt of Bosniak ayans against the Ottoman Empire. The casus belli were reforms implemented by the Sultan to abolish the ayans system. Despite winning several notable victories, the rebels were eventually defeated in a battle near Sarajevo in 1832. Internal discord contributed to the failure of the rebellion, because Gradašević was not supported by much of the Herzegovinian nobility. As a result, Ali Pasha Rizvanbegović was named Pasha of the Herzegovina Eyalet, which was seceded in 1833. The Sultan implemented the new museum system, abolishing the old ayan system. The new museums were mostly old ayans, but in 1850 Omar Pasha completely eliminated old ayan families. The road to uprising. In the late 1820s, Sultan Mahmud II reintroduced a set of reforms that called for further expansion of the centrally controlled army, new taxes and more Ottoman bureaucracy. These reforms weakened the special status and privileges Bosnian beys had enjoyed under the Ottoman Empire, and coupled with the growing power and position of other European people under Ottoman control, caused much anger and alarm. Contrary to popular belief, however, the future leader of the autonomy movement, Dusan Gradašević, then just a local official, was not greatly opposed to these reforms. In 1826, when the Sultan issued a decree abolishing the Janissaries in Bosnia, Gradašević's immediate reaction was not unlike that of the rest of the Bosnian aristocracy. Gradašević threatened that he would use military force to subdue anybody opposed to the Sarajevo Janissaries. When the Janissaries killed Nakibul Esrif Nuruddin Efendi Serafović, however, his tone shifted and he rapidly distanced himself from their cause. For the rest of the 1820s, Gradašević generally maintained good relations with imperial authorities in Bosnia. When Abdurrahim Pasha became vizier in 1827, Gradašević was said to have become one of his more trusted advisors. This culminated in Gradašević's large role in the Bosnian mobilization for the Russo-Ottoman War. Following a riot in the Sarajevo camp during these preparations, Gradašević even provided shelter for the ousted Abdurrahim Pasha in Gredakić before assisting him in his escape from the country. Gradašević was also relatively loyal to Abdurrahim's successor, Namik Pasha, reinforcing Ottoman garrisons in Sabak upon his orders. The turning point for Gradašević came with the end of the Russo-Ottoman War of 1828–1829 and the Treaty of Adrianople on 14 September 1829. According to the provisions of the treaty and a subsequent Hatay Sharif, the Ottoman Empire granted suzerainty to Serbia as a result of the Serbian Revolution, in a move that outraged Bosniaks and launched numerous protests. Newly autonomous Serbia was also given 6 districts that had traditionally belonged to Bosnia. Following this move, seen as the confiscation of historically Bosnian lands, the Bosnian autonomy movement was born. Between 20 and 31 December 1830, Gradašević hosted a gathering of Bosniak aristocrats in Gredakić. A month later, from the 20th of January to the 5th of February, another meeting was held in Tuzla to prepare for the revolt. From there, a call was issued to the Bosnian populace asking them to rise up to the defense of Bosnia. It was then that the popular Dusan Karpatan was unofficially chosen to head the movement. Rising tide and early successes. Another outcome of the Tuzla meeting was an agreement that another general meeting should be held in Travnik. Since Travnik was the seat of the Bosnian Pashalik and the vizier, the planned meeting was in effect a direct confrontation with Ottoman authority. Gradašević thus asked all involved to help assemble an army beforehand. On 29 March 1831, Gradašević set out towards Travnik with some 4,000 men. Upon hearing word of the oncoming force, Namik Pasha is said to have gone to the Travnik fort and called the Suleiman Pasik brothers to his aid. When the rebel army arrived in Travnik, they fired several warning shots at the castle, warning the vizier that they were prepared for a military encounter. Meanwhile, Gradašević sent a detachment of his forces, under the command of Memisaga of Srebrenica, to meet Suleiman Pasic's reinforcements. The two sides met at Pirot, on the outskirts of Travnik, on the 7th of April. There, Memisaga defeated the Suleiman Pasic brothers and their 2,000-man army, forcing them to retreat and destroying the possessions of the Suleiman Pasic family. On the 21st of May, Namik Pasha fled to Starlak following a short siege. Soon afterwards, Gradašević proclaimed himself the commander of Bosnia, chosen by the will of the people. Gradašević made a call on the 31st of May demanding that all aristocrats immediately join his army, along with all from the general populace who wished to do so. Thousands rushed to join him, among them numerous Christians, who were said to comprise up to a third of his total forces. Gradašević split his army in two, leaving one part of it in Zvornik to defend against a possible Serbian incursion. With the bulk of the troops he set out towards Kosovo to meet the Grand Vizier, who had been sent with a large army to quell the rebellion. Along the way, he took the cities of Pec and Pristina, where he set up his main camp. The encounter with Grand Vizier Mehmed Rashid Pasha happened on the 18th of July near Stimlja. Although both armies were of roughly equal size, the Grand Vizier's troops had superior arms. Gradašević sent a part of his army under the command of Ali Beg Fidayik ahead to meet Rashid Pasha's forces. Following a small skirmish, Fidayik feigned retreat. Thinking that victory was within reach, the Grand Vizier foolishly sent his cavalry and artillery into forested terrain. Gradašević immediately took advantage of this tactical error and executed a punishing counterattack with the bulk of his forces, almost completely annihilating the Ottoman forces. Rashid Pasha himself was injured and barely escaped with his life. Rebel government established. Following claims from the Grand Vizier that the Sultan would meet all Bosniak demands if the rebel army would return to Bosnia, Gradašević and his army turned back home. On the 10th of August a meeting of all major figures in the movement for autonomy was held in Pristina. At this meeting it was decided that Gradašević should be declared Vizier of Bosnia. Although Gradašević refused at first, those around him insisted and he eventually accepted the honor. His new status was made official during an all-Bosnian Congress held in Sarajevo on September 12. In front of the Emperor's Mosque, those present swore on the Quran to be loyal to Gradašević and declared that, despite potential failure and death, there would be no turning back. At this point, Gradašević was not only the supreme military commander, but Bosnia's leading civilian authority as well. He established a court around him, and after initially making himself at home in Sarajevo, he moved the center of Bosnian politics to Travnik, making it the de facto capital of the rebel state. In Travnik, he established a divan, a Bosnian Congress, which together with him made up the Bosnian government. Gradašević also collected taxes at this time, and executed various local opponents of the autonomy movement. He gained a reputation as a hero and a strong, brave, and decisive ruler. One anecdote that illustrates this is Husin Karpetan's alleged response to whether he was scared of waging war against the Ottoman Empire. "God I fear slightly," Gradašević replied, "the Sultan not at all, and the Grand Vizier no more than my own horse." Opposition to the uprising in Herzegovina. During this lull in armed conflict with the Ottomans, attention was turned to the autonomy movement's strong opposition in Herzegovina. A small campaign was launched against the region from three different directions. 1. An army from Sarajevo was ordered to attack Starlak for a final encounter with Namik Pasha, who had fled there following Gradašević's capture of Travnik. 2. An army from Krajina was to assist the Sarajevan forces in this endeavor. 3. Armies from Posavina and South Podrinje were to attack Gacko and local captain Smajaga Sengic. As it happened, Namik Pasha had already abandoned Starlak, so this attack was put on hold. The attack on Gacko was a failure as the forces from Posavina and South Padrinj were defeated by Senjik's troops. There was one success, however. In October, an army Gradasovic had deployed under the command of Ahmed Beg Razulbegovic had taken over Trebinj from Razulbegovic's loyalist cousins and other supporters of the Starlak opposition. A Bosnian delegation reached the Grand Vizier's camp in Skopje in November of that year. The Grand Vizier promised this delegation that he would insist to the Sultan that he accept the Bosniak demands and appoint Gradasovic as the official vizier of an autonomous Bosnia. His true intentions, however, were manifested by early December when he attacked Bosnian units stationed on the outskirts of Novi Pazar. Yet again, the rebel army handed a defeat to the imperial forces. Due to a particularly strong winter though, the Bosnian troops were forced to return home. Meanwhile in Bosnia, Gradasovic decided to carry on his campaign in Herzegovina despite the unfavorable climate. The captain of Livna, Ibrahim Beg Fidris, was ordered to launch a final attack against the local captains and to thus end all domestic opposition to the autonomy movement. To achieve this, Fidris first attacked Lubuski and the local captain Sulman Beg. In a significant victory, Fidris defeated Sulman Beg and secured the whole of Herzegovina except Starlak in the process. Unfortunately, the segment of the army that laid siege to Starlak itself met with failure in early March of the next year. Receiving information that the Bosnian ranks were depleted due to the winter, the captain of Starlak Ali Pasha Rizvan Begovic broke the siege, counter-attacking the rebels and dispersing their forces. A force had already been sent towards Starlak from Sarajevo, under the command of Mujaga Zalata, but was ordered back by Gradasovic on March 16 after he received news of a major offensive on Bosnia being planned by the Grand Vizier. Ottoman counter-attack. The Ottoman campaign began in early February. The Grand Vizier sent two armies, one from Vusaturn and one from Shkoda. Both armies headed towards Sarajevo, and Gradasovic sent an army of around 10,000 men to meet them. When the Vizier's troops succeeded in crossing the Drina, Gradasovic ordered 6,000 men under Ali Pasha Fidaik to meet him in Rogatica, while units stationed in Visegrad were to head to Pale on the outskirts of Sarajevo. The encounter between the two sides finally happened on the Glasinak plains to the east of Sarajevo, near Sokolak, at the end of May. The Bosnian army was led by Gradasovic himself, while the Ottoman troops were under the command of Kara Mahmud Hamdi Pasha, the new imperially recognized vizier of Bosnia. In this first encounter, Gradasovic was forced to retreat to Pale. The fighting continued in Pale and Gradasovic was once again forced to retreat, this time to Sarajevo. There, a council of captains decided that the fight would continue. Defeat at Battle of Stup. The final battle was played out on the 4th of June at Stup, a small locality on the road between Sarajevo and Ilidza. After a long, intense battle, it seemed Gradasovic had once again defeated the Sultan's army. Near the very end, however, Herzegovinian troops under the command of Ali Pasha Rizvan Begovic and Smail Aga Sangik broke through defenses Gradasovic had set up on his flank and joined the fighting. Overwhelmed by the unexpected attack from behind, the rebel army was forced to retreat into the city of Sarajevo itself. It was decided that further military resistance would be futile. Gradasovic fled to Gradačak as the imperial army entered the city on the 5th of June and prepared to march on Travnik. Upon realizing the difficulties that his home and family would experience if he stayed there, Gradasovic decided to leave Gradačak and continue on to Austrian lands instead.